Okay, wild card weekend is done. Um, and all I gotta say for Sunday is I told you. But we're gonna get to the I told you. Uh, Chronologically, first game Ravens Titans, good game. I like that kind of game. People get pissed anytime there's a football game that's not 40-30. This one was 20-13. Good game. I thought it was a very good game. Good defense, pretty good running at least from the Ravens. Um, you know, I I think most people thought at 10-0 Titans that the Ravens were fucked, but they came back. Lamar Jackson got it going, and the Titans couldn't build on their lead because they couldn't get their running game going. Derrick Henry only got like 40 some yards. Um, you know they couldn't really keep pace with the passing game, and um, just a really good game from Lamar Jackson. I mean, he wasn't great in the passing game, but he had like 130 yards on the ground, and you know that Ravens defense, man. I mean, it's amazing how the Ravens have always been able to have a great defense for like 20 years. Um, they probably had a couple of lulls in there, but they've always been known for defense, and they've been able to keep it up. And that's going to be a hell of a game next week. That's you know the game I was looking forward to most this weekend was Ravens Titans, and the one I'm looking most forward to next week is Ravens Bills. Ravens Bills is going to be one hell of a fucking football game. Saturday night, be there. But yeah, so then the second game, Saints Bears. Saints win. The Trubisky resurgence is officially over. Um, it's like okay, people were people were losing their mind about Trubisky when he was lighting us up, our crappy defense. He was lighting up the Jaguars, their crappy defense. He was lighting up Houston and their crappy defense. It's like, and then they play the Packers and they're terrible, and they play the Saints and they're terrible. So, um, Bears actually kept it close in the first half. Guy dropped a wide open touchdown pass right in his hands in the end zone, and that was really their chance, and they never really had another good chance after that because they didn't even get points out of that drive, and you know the Saints' offense wasn't great, but Breeze was pretty good, and they ran it fine, and you know and the Saints' defense has become pretty damn good, and you know if I didn't know deep down that the NFL has already decided that Tampa Bay is going to go to the NFC Championship game, I would think the Saints would have a very good chance to beat Tampa Bay next week. But I don't think that's going to be allowed to happen. But you know, it pisses me off that, of course, we lost our playoff spot essentially to the Bears. Um, we beat the Bears here. We're in the playoffs. We would not have beaten the Saints. Don't get me wrong. We would not have won that game either, and it would have probably been a blowout too. But I don't know. Pisses me off that we lost our playoff spot to a completely unworthy Bears team, and we were unworthy too. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know. I wasn't rooting for the Bears, but you know, it pisses me off that you know we got kept out of the playoffs by a garbage Bears team, and they still have a good defense, and they were fairly good on defense today for the most part, but um, you know, I don't know, it pisses me off. But in the eye opener game, I fucking told you, Pittsburgh. I told you. You don't take off the Week 17 game and let Cleveland in the playoffs, which is what you did, because now look what happened. You just got embarrassed. What the hell was the final at? 48-37. That thing was 28-0 at the end of the first quarter. It was the most points scored in the first quarter of a playoff game since I think I saw the 60s. 41 donut wasn't that bad that quickly. Um, Boy, it's fast. The Steelers were 11-0. Remember that? And nobody at that time really thought, okay, this is actually going to be like an undefeated team. But it's fascinating what happened to them in Seattle. Like, if you would ask, if week 8, like middle of the season, who are the two best teams in football? I would have probably said Seattle and Pittsburgh. With Kansas City there too, and they just collapsed. Pittsburgh was so bad for like their last 6 games, except for one quarter. They played one really good quarter against the Colts that saved their ass and got them the division, which ultimately was meaningless because now they got knocked out on their home field. But it's like you gotta you gotta kill these teams when you can. I mean, there's lots of examples of teams that played it out in the last game. I mean, even a couple years ago, the Bears came in here, beat us. They would have ended up playing us in the playoffs, and they probably would have beaten us. But they didn't let it happen. Like you have a chance to nuke a team in your division. You gotta take that chance. Like go back to '92 Vikings. Dennis Green's first year. They played Green Bay the last game of the season. It meant nothing to the Vikings. But Green Bay could have gotten the playoffs with a win. Didn't happen because the Vikings went out there and beat their ass. So, I don't know what happened to Pittsburgh. The Steelers, the Tomlin Steelers have been really, really bad in the playoffs. Really from the start. You know, like even look, they won a Super Bowl and they made it to another one, but even go back to that Super Bowl, like they almost lost to a 9-win team in the Super Bowl, and then they played a shitty game against the Packers in a Super Bowl, and they lost to Tim Tebow, and they got beat badly on their home field by Blake Bortles, and then they had a few of those just completely non-competitive losses to the Patriots, and now they rallied. I mean, the final score looks like it was a competitive game, but it never was. I mean, they rallied a little bit, and I'm sure the Cleveland fans were starting to get nervous because of their history, and like, oh no, we're gonna blow a 28-0 and 35-7 lead. But it was never one where I really thought they were going to come back. They had they were down like 13 or 15, something like that, and they had a 4th and 1, the Steelers, and they punted. It was near midfield, and the Browns went down, scored a touchdown. That was the end of it. Just terrible. Like I don't get it. Like I don't know what happened to Pittsburgh. Like I don't know if we've ever really seen a team. I mean, I know we've seen teams be undefeated longer into a season, lose their first playoff game. I know the 2011 Packers, didn't they start like 13-0 or something, or 14-0, and they got beaten their first playoff game. But I mean, you could see this coming for weeks with Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has been terrible. And they were getting just handled in non-competitive fashion a lot. And then that's why I thought it was such a huge mistake. You can't. They had played one good quarter against the Colts, and then they're like, okay, everything's fixed, and now we're gonna just take off Week 17 against the Browns, when you could have kept the Browns, division rival, out of the playoffs. And don't get me wrong, the Steelers probably get beat in their first playoff game by whoever. Like the Colts would have beat them. I think even the Dolphins probably beat them. Certainly the Ravens beat them. But yeah, so first play of the game, they fuck up the snap and give the Browns a touchdown. They threw 3 picks in the first half, getting run over, passed over, just an amazing belly flop. I mean, you thought Seattle gave a terrible performance yesterday. This was worse. I mean, worst performance of the weekend by far was Pittsburgh. And Cleveland, they get their first playoff win. Boy, this has been the weekend of droughts ending. We had Tampa get their first playoff win in 18 years. Bills got their first playoff win in 25 years, and the Browns get their first playoff win in 26 years. It's like, boy, I was a junior in high school when the Bills won. I was a sophomore in high school when the Browns won the last time. That was Bill Belichick. That was Bill Belichick's one playoff win with Cleveland, and he beat the Patriots, ironically. But they did it without Stefanski. He wasn't there. It was Nuke the Gaze Prefer. And oh God, the revisionist history going on amongst the Vikings fans over this. Oh my God, these people. The worst was the one I saw that. If only we hadn't beaten the Saints in the playoffs last year, we would have fired Zimmer and we would have hired Stefanski, and then we would be able to get Deshaun Watson. The levels of delusion in this fan base, I swear to God. Stefanski wasn't even the coach in this game. But like the Browns earned the win. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes you just step back and let the other team fuck it up, and boy, did the Steelers do it. I don't think the Browns. I knew the Browns were going to win this game. That, I was very certain. Like the only game this whole weekend that was probably more absolutely certain was Tampa. But I don't think Cleveland is going to now go on a run. I think Kansas City will handle them. I mean, I think Kansas City. I think Kansas City is going to put up a lot of points on Cleveland this week, and Cleveland will probably put up some points too. But I do think that they're. I don't even want to call if you want to call it a Cinderella run, because a lot of people picked them to go to the playoffs, but I think their run will end next week. But so yeah, I think Ravens Bills is going to be a hell of a game. I really could see that one going either way. I think Buffalo wins, but I don't think it's any sort of a lock. I think Kansas City will win, and I think that one's a little more comfortable, because I just don't see how they're gonna. I don't see how they're gonna stop Mahomes, because nobody stops Mahomes, not really. And the NFC, I mean, I've already said it's a fait accompli. Packers Buccaneers will be the NFC Championship game. It doesn't matter what happens. The Saints probably should beat the Bucs, but they won't be allowed to. I guarantee it. Rams, Packers. I don't know who's going to even be out there for the Rams. It won't matter. You're not going to see. Packers are not losing their first home game at Lambeau. It's just not going to happen. So, the NFC is not interesting to me at all. AFC is very interesting to me. I think just about any combination for an AFC Championship game would be pretty interesting. How about Browns Ravens for an AFC Championship game? Old Cleveland, and New Cleveland. So, hey, I wasn't that wrong this weekend. I went 5-1. The only one that I was wrong about was Seattle, which I was kind of like, qualified it with you can't trust Seattle, and you couldn't because they lost. But so yeah, I would say that, I don't know. I suppose I could wait to make official picks, but I mean, it's Green Bay, Tampa Bay in the NFC for picks, and Kansas City in the NFC, and I'll still say Buffalo. So I think we'll have Packers, Bucks, and Chiefs, Bills in the championship round.